investors.
I am here with the Property Challenge podcast.
I teach investors all around the world how to become real estate investors and
How to overcome their challenges. Join me here every single week. PCP, the Property Challenge podcast.
when I started this podcast and when I said, what am I going to talk about? I said the best name is
The Property Challenge.
Hey investors, welcome to another episode of the Property Challenge podcast. I am your host, Terrica Lynn Smith, and I'm about to teach you guys how to develop a mobile home park. I have heard the request. You guys are always asking, hey, how can I start developing? How can I start generating income with real estate development and things like that? And so I figured what better way than to host a segment on the Property Challenge podcast on how to develop a mobile home park. Now, you can take these principles and you can apply it all the way across the board. Now, it'll have a little bit difference in regards to communities, but if you're looking to do something that's on a smaller level, such as a mobile home park, and sometimes mobile home parks can be done on a large scale as well, depending on your budget, this is probably going to be the best blueprint that you get on the internet to be able to get you started. So first and foremost, let's get into it. So I own several mobile home parks. And what I come to find is that mobile home parks are very, very lucrative. Now, for some of you, if you're not in the Sun Belt, you don't understand that people live in mobile homes. You're probably like, oh my God, that looks like a car on wheels. It looks like a RV. Well, in fact, the people in the Sun Belt states, they really, really live in these mobile homes and they spend a premium. They can be cash cows for you. Even the mobile home park itself can be a cash cow, even if you don't own the actual mobile home and or trailer. And so I just kind of wanted to share with you guys just the different ways that you can develop a mobile home park and start generating income, whether you own all the trailers in the neighborhood, in that community that you're going to build, and or if you own none of the trailers and you just own the dirt, you still can get a check. And so that's what this episode is about. I want to go ahead and dive deep into it. I wrote down a few points. Somebody put points in the chat right now. The first thing you're going to do is your homework. So a lot of people think that I'm just going to buy this piece of land and I'm going to develop it, and you got all these wonderful plans. But you want to make sure that where you're developing is the area that's going to be the highest and best use for that mobile home park. Now, how do we do that, right? We take a look around. If we see an area that has a lot more mobile home parks, we're probably going to want to find some land within that proximity. If you look in an area and they have a lot more residential single family homes, a lot more multifamily homes, well, they're probably not going to allow you to place a mobile home park near it. Now, for those of you who don't know, a mobile home is a depreciating asset. The actual trailer itself depreciates in value just as it would if you was to buy a car. So the moment you purchase a trailer, every day you own it, the value goes down. Now, you're probably like, well, why in the heck would I want to buy a trailer if the if the trailer value goes down? Well, I have this model where I don't spend more than $10,000 to $15,000 per trailer. I only buy used trailers. I don't buy brand new trailers. Brand new trailers can cost you anywhere from $80,000 to $100,000, $200,000 just to get a brand new one. And they got single wide and then they got double wide. The single wide is more of your narrow ones. Your double wides are more of your larger homes, right? And so, seeing the cost of that, you're probably like, that's how much a house would cost. And you're absolutely right. But as an investor and as a developer, I'm not looking at those expensive mobile homes that cost that much. I'm looking on the lower end. So I'm looking for the ones that's used. I'm looking for repossessions. I'm looking for opportunities that people are in a financial situation and they need fast cash to be able to get out. And so you want to make sure that you do your homework in that area. Once you do your homework and you like the area, you chose a spot, you're gonna make sure that spot is in close proximity to amenities that people need, right? Families. So what do family needs? That's how you say that. Yeah. What do family needs, right? A family need a school, they need a bank, they need a grocery store, they need a hospital. So you want to make sure that your proximity to those essential verticals are within driving distance and or walking distance for your community. That's important because people such as myself, like when I'm looking at property, if I'm going to buy something personal for myself or I'm going to rent, I'm going to look up the neighborhood. I'm going to look at the schools. I'm going to see what type of school rating they have. I'm going to look at the walkability score. Like the walkability tells you how safe the neighborhood is, if you should be walking at night or not. I'm going to look at all of those things. So picking your spot and doing your homework, making sure that you're good with the area and that you're going to get the highest and best use is the first thing that you do. Now, for those of you who already own property and you're like, man, I don't know if I could do this, right? Well, first, I would tell you just to call planning and zoning, right? So planning and zoning will tell you if your land is zoned for mobile homes. They may say, no, you're zoned for multifamily, or they may say, no, you're only zoned for residential single family, or they may say, no, you're zoned for commercial. So I recommend calling planning and zoning and asking them, hey, what are the zoning requirements with this parcel of land that I have? Now, once you get the zoning and everything good, they say, yes, you can build a mobile home park here. You got your location or you already have your land. Now, what you're going to do is what we call a feasibility study. You can Google online feasibility experts. There's all type of firms throughout the United States that does feasibility studies. The feasibility study, you're going to spend some money up front for that study. But that study is going to tell you the highest and best use for your land. So you may be wanting to develop a mobile home park there, but it may be more lucrative for you to build a neighborhood there. And so the feasibility study shows you what is taking place in the past, what is currently going on, and what the future could potentially hold. Because planning and zoning, they actually have a what we call a community development plan. That means they got a 10-year plan of what they want to see revitalized in their area. They have a 10-year plan of the businesses that they would like to come to the area. And so you can call any of your local governments and ask them, hey, what is your 10-year plan for the city of Doraville or the city of Lafayette or wherever you may be, right? It doesn't matter. You can just literally ask them that question, and or you can go into the planning and zoning office and they can show you their plans for the city. So after you do your homework and you choose your location and planning and zoning gives you the thumb up, they're like, yeah, you're good to go. Now you got to design it right. So I'm a very visual person. So whenever I was developing Madeline Cove, I didn't have to draw out the neighborhood itself, but I drew out what was already existing there and I chopped it up. So at first, people was going to put 50 residential homes on the property that we have. Well, I broke it up to the point where we did 21 homes on the property, and we're able to put 68 duplexes on the property, and we're able to build a 48-unit complex on the property. And then on top of that, we have a piece of land in the front of the development where we can put a commercial retail strip. So that's a lot of different mixes, right? But lucky for us, we're in a mixed use area where we able to combine those different type of living arrangements in one community. So whenever you're drawing it out, visualize it, have fun with it. Like, I did not know I was going to be able to create all of these different mixed uses in this neighborhood. But once I drew it out, I brought it to an engineer. And you would do that. You would bring your drawing over to engineering and say, hey, this is the land. I visualize having 5 roads in this mobile home community, or I visualize having 1 road in this mobile home community, or 2 roads, right? And then you put the names on the roads that you want to name them. You might want to name them after your children. You may want to name them after your grandparents or your parents or whoever it may be, right? So it is so much fun. That is my favorite part about development, is taking this blank canvas and drawing what I want to see come to light, and then bringing it to a civil engineer and them laying it out exactly how I drew it and saying, yeah, this could possibly work. And so while you're designing it right, you want to keep in mind to plan for all of your essentials, like your water, your sewer, your electricity, the internet. Like, your residence is going to need those basic amenities. And so you want to make sure you have that. In our area, we have what's called fiber. I don't know if you guys have fiber in your area, but a lot of people like fiber internet more than they like the traditional internet with, these larger companies that have been around for a while. So do your research. Make sure you plan it right. Make sure you have, the Bible says, write the plan and make it clear. So what you're doing in this step before you meet with the civil engineer is you're writing a plan and you're making it clear. You're probably like, well, how can I fund all of this? Well, that's a great question, because the next thing you want to do after you draw it out, you design it and you see it, you got to figure out what a budget looks like. So your civil engineer helps you with the budget, because obviously you probably never laid a road in the neighborhood before, or you never had to do a traffic study, or you never had to do any density test. You probably never had to do soil testing and all of these different type of things. So your civil engineer almost essentially becomes like your business partner, because they're going to be the ones that's doing the leveling. They're going to tell you if you need retention ponds. They're going to say if you need a lift station. If you're doing septic, they're going to tell you how many septics you need. Like, the civil engineer is going to lay out the entire process of the construction. That's what we call the hard construction costs, the roads, all of that stuff, curbs, gutters, all of that, culverts, all of those things are your hard cost in development. Your soft cost in development is all of your R&D. So R&D stands for research and development. So you want to make sure that you do all your research, which is planning and zoning. You don't want to ever buy a piece of property and not do your due diligence on it, meaning not do a feasibility study, meaning not knowing, if it's in a flood zone or not. That's a big issue down here in the South. Like, if a property is in a flood zone, you can already increase your budget by 60% of the insurance cost. That's not even on top of your general liability. That's just simply flood insurance. And so a cool thing about a mobile home community, though, is if you're just renting out the dirt, you don't have to do flood insurance. But if you're doing a trailer, you're going to have to make sure that trailer is elevated to a certain height so it can get out of the flood zone way. So again, all of that comes with just taking your time. You don't have to rush this process, because development is a process. And for those of you who think it happens overnight, it does not. Development can take you anywhere from 6 to 12 to 18 to 24 to 3 years. It all depends, right? 6 months is amazing. That might be a very small development. But if you got a development like we have that's in 5 phases, it may take you 5 to 10 years to build out that entire development. There's neighborhoods now that are still undeveloped that developers just never got back to. So again, if you chop it up, if you have a large piece of land and you want to have quite a bit of mobile homes on that lot, then you're going to want to break it up into those compartments. You're going to want to break it up into those pieces: phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, phase 5, however many phases you want. And you may say, well, how do I know if I want to do a phase or not? Well, that's going to be your money part. That's where the budgeting comes in there, right? Because the bigger the project, the more money it costs. So if you're saying, hey, I only have like $100,000, you probably want to sit down with the civil engineer and say, hey, how much of this could I build out with the budget of $100,000 that I have right now? He may say, let's do, you may have 10 acres. He may say, let's do 2 acres right now. And let's defer the other acres until you finish these 2 developments on these 2 acres. And let's say those 2 acres hold 10 trailers each. That's 20 trailers. And let's say it take you 12 months to do that. Well, within those 12 months, you got to budget the holding costs. You got to budget all of the engineers that's going to be, doing the land surveying and the elevations and everything that you need. You're going to have to budget all of that into that money. And you want to make sure that you have enough to be able to see the project to the end. So your budget is going to matter. And when you're looking at funding options, right, you can look at loans, investors, partners who might want to jump on board. There's so many ways you can do private capital. You can do You can do conventional. Conventional is where you go to the bank and the bank says, okay, I'll give you 80% and you got to come up with 20%. Hard money may make you pay 6, 7, 8, 9, 10%, maybe a higher interest rate. You got to really figure that out. You may want to use your retirement account. You got to see what the penalty is on that. You may have 4 partners that have $25,000 each, and y'all all put in $25,000, and that's your $100,000. And for the first 2 acres with the first 20 trailers, that's what they own. They have nothing to do with the extra land. They only own what you're doing in phase 1. So there's so many different funding options you can look at, but I would tell you, don't get discouraged if you can't find a financial institution. Just keep on moving and pressing forward with it, because I got denied so many times when we were doing our development. I don't understand. It's me and at this point in time, it was 4 other partners. And we all got amazing credit. We all got money in the bank. We all own real estate, so we're not new investors. And we just could not understand why the bank was giving us such a hard time with financing. Like at any other time, they would say, yes, absolutely, here's the loan. They had no issue throwing me millions and millions of dollars. But now all of a sudden, because of where I want to develop at, it's not a desirable area, right? It's desirable, but they want to keep it so they can gentrify it. Y'all, when I tell y'all, I did not know the bank was in the land buying business, meaning that I thought they give loans, right? They loan to investors who want to go buy real estate. I didn't know banks go buy their own real estate. I'm not trying to compete with the bank, but I never want to feel how that bank made us feel or those banks made us feel. I want to be able to be in a position, whether I need a bank or not, I'm able to move forward. Now, that looks like you may have to put some skin in the game. You may have to bootstrap this. You may have to talk to 100 people to get 3 yeses. I remember looking at my clipboard. I had a clipboard, something that's similar to this. If you ever around me, I'm always writing things down. And I was like, every time somebody told me no, I would tally it. Like I would put a little tally, and then, you got the 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5 goes across. I got told no over 100 times. And I was so frustrated. I was so aggravated. I'm like, bro, why keep on getting denied? Like, why are people it's never been this hard before to raise money. Now, all of a sudden, it's World War III to be able to get $5 from anybody. Where the heck did this happen? Like, am I not Terrica Lynn Smith anymore? Like, am I new? Do I look different? Have I changed? Haven't I always given you a return on your investment? Haven't I always paid my loans out? And now all of a sudden, because we want to develop this property that's in an area of town where either you want to gentrify and or it's not that desirable to you, you just want to block it. Imagine what would have happened if I would have given up with the first no. Imagine what would have happened if I given up with the second no. So why am I telling you this? Because you're going to have to prepare yourself for the no's. Everybody is not going to be happy about what you're trying to do. It's not that they're jealous. Some are. Like, just to be honest, some are. But that's not always the case. A lot of the times, they can be coming from a place of love where they just want to protect you. They want to protect you from an investment that you're about to do that seems very risky to them, but they have no investments. As a real estate investor, and I'm talking to all my investors out there, right? Coach T talking to you, right? Don't take advice from somebody who's not already where you're headed. That means if they don't own no real estate, you can't tell me how to go buy. If you don't have no rental properties or investment properties, you can't tell me what to buy. I appreciate you looking out for me. Good looking out. I appreciate that. But at no point in time am I here and or do I want to hear you tell me to stop. You got to protect who you share your dream with. Everybody's not going to be supportive of this. And especially when you come to them wanting money, you're going to remove all the feelings out of the way. You come to them just like you would any other investor. You create a business plan for this community. Why is this community going to be a great idea? And how am I going to make money? And how fast will I get my money back out this investment? That's what investors care about. How will I make money? And how fast will it come back to me? They don't care about all that other stuff. So it may be very passionate to you. It may be your grandmother's property. They don't care. They want to know how much capital is it going to take and how fast can they get their money back. So don't take it personal. I had to lick my wounds because at one point in time, I started making it personal. I started feeling played. I started feeling like, yo, I feel like they trying to play me. But it wasn't that. It was, I probably wasn't communicating the best way on this development and how they was going to make the best return. But then my business partners, they number people, right? So they come and put everything together and we still getting told no. You mean to tell me, and this was not aggressive, guys. This was super, like these are super conservative, realistic numbers, if you would, right? But if you're looking at getting a 60 to 70% return on your investment, at one point in time, it was higher than that. If you're looking at getting that type of return on your investment and you're just like not interested, something wrong with that. Maybe you're not an investor. And I had to come to the realization of that. Maybe they're not real investors. Maybe they only want to do what they want to do and comfortable with, right? Maybe they don't really trust me like that. I don't know what the thing could be. But what I did know was that I couldn't take it personal. I couldn't make this about Terrica Lynn Smith. If I would have made it about Terrica Lynn Smith, I would have been quit. I would have been angry, and I probably would not own the property now. So it matters. So once you figure out your budget, once you get the layout, you got your engineer and everything laid out. Now it's time to build it up. Prep the site. You're going to clear the land and get it ready for development, including the roads and the utilities, right? The lot development, get the individual lots set up with everything they need, size and utilities included. That's you and your civil engineer. I told y'all, you're going to be with the civil engineer for a very long time, so you better like them. Don't just go hire an engineer and you be like, man, these people, most engineers are dry. That's my experience. Like, I'm probably going to get ate up in the comments about from engineers. But the truth is this, right? Engineers, they have a different part of their brain that they use. It's a very unique piece of their brain that they have to use. And so they may come off very direct. They may come off as dry. They may come off as boring. They may come off as insensitive. But a lot of the engineers that I've had conversations with, I just realized they live inside their head so much that when they get in front of people to actually lay out what needs to be laid out, they're not really that type of a people's person. They more of a behind the scenes, let me draw the measurements, let me see the elevations, let me see the slopes, let me see drainage, let me see sewage, let me see all of these things, right? That's where they live at. That's their bread and butter. And there's nothing wrong with that. If that's what they decide, to live at, you just have to respect it. So you're going to work with your civil engineer to get all of that going. But then on top of that, now it's time to say, I want to spread the word. The lots are developed. They're ready for rent. Let me tell you how you make money. This is the good part, right? Let's say you don't want to put no trailers on the property. Okay. Let's say 0 trailers. You just want to rent out the lots. Each lot costs $200. Okay. So $200 times 20 lots. Okay. What is that a month? 4,000? That's about 4,000, right, D? So $4,000 a month. You don't have no maintenance calls. Your plumbing ain't busted. You don't get no other calls unless the main power line goes out and or something is wrong with the septic or the sewage, whatever you have to install in your community. That's a good life. That means you can pay $200 for dirt. Now, the average lot price here down in Louisiana is $200 to $300. But in Georgia, it's $500 to $800 just for dirt. That don't include the mobile home. So you can imagine receiving $4,000 a month on a $100,000 investment opportunity. That's a great deal. I would be jumping up and down all day long, but that's why people do it. That's why they develop mobile home parks, and some just rent the dirt. But this is where it gets sweet at. You remember how I said in the beginning, I don't really go above $15,000 because I won't ever see that money again. The moment, and guess what? The moment I buy that trailer, right? $15,000, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. I rent it out for $800 a month. That includes my lot fee. I'm making $800 off of that trailer. Now, mind you, now I'll get the maintenance calls. I'll get, the toilet not working. The tub is stopped up. The sink stopped up. A lot of the times with the trailers, you have to redo the subflooring whenever it's been there for a while. There's perpetual maintenance that you want to, obviously look at. But you can also not own the trailer and let it be tenant owned. So they have park owned, which is PO, and then they have TO, which is tenant owned. You just have to simply decide what kind of park you want to have. Do you want to have a park owned mobile home park, or do you want to have a tenant owned mobile home park? Some of you may say, I might like to do both. I might like to own some of the trailers because they're cash cows, and I probably would want to rent out some lots so that way I don't get that many maintenance phone calls. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. You can totally do that. Again, you just got to keep in mind the reason why you would buy a trailer that's a depreciating asset is because it's a cash cow. So when people move their mobile homes onto your property, they're not moving for a very long time. You can bank your bottom dollar that they're going to be there a minimum of 2 years. And they may stay for their entire life existence. That's the beautiful thing about a mobile home park, is that the tenants can't just up and leave. It costs thousands of dollars to move a trailer. So you better believe that people are not just rushing to move a trailer. Imagine spending thousands of dollars to move a trailer. If it's an older trailer, you're more concerned with it falling apart on the highway while it's headed to the next destination. Then at the next destination, you got to pay a deposit and you got to pay the lot rent. That's a lot of expenses. So a lot of people that does the mobile home park investing, they understand that the trailers are cash cows and the dirts are no maintenance calls. So you just choose if you want to be a park owned investor and or a tenant owned investor, and or you might like a mixture of both. I'm from Louisiana. I like gumbo. I like a mixture of both. The only way I don't like the trailers is if they continuously having issues. And guys, look, that's the risk of trailers. Sometimes you're just going to have some issues that keep on coming up, even with rental properties, right? We got a property right now where it's like, by the grace of God, I get no more phone calls. Okay, we got a tenant in there. It's ready to go by the grace of God. That's what we're praying for. Because every time I look, I'm like, okay, a few hundred here, a few thousand there, a few hundred here, a few thousand there. So it can get up there in cost. And I don't tell you that to put fear in you. I tell you that because a lot of the times people don't talk about the risk in real estate investing. Everybody always say, go invest in real estate until you get a haircut. You'd be like, yo, why y'all didn't tell me about this? The truth is, there's no way to tell you everything that can possibly happen inside of a real estate deal. Sometimes you just got to walk that out yourself. But again, if you get a coach, right, a good coach can help you minimize your blind spots. That don't necessarily mean they're going to cover every single part of it. They're just going to help you minimize it, meaning that they've went there before you and they can say, hey, you probably want to look out for this, or hey, you probably want to look out for that, or hey, look, you want to make sure you watch, such and such over there, right? Like this, maybe you want to watch, this engineer. This engineer is known for asking for large payments up front and not fulfilling the work. You can't get them back on the phone. That's what a good coach will say. Oh, yeah, I heard about such and such. They have experience. They can tell you what to do if that person don't answer and you didn't give them money, right? So it's important to make sure you have someone to do this. And look, guys, listen to me. Don't go do your first development on your own. Bring somebody along who knows what to do. Unless you can afford to lose and learn on the way, then okay. I'm not one that like to lose and learn. I like to be protected. Protect me and my dollars, okay? Save me. I need some saving. Because what I don't want to do is risk investor money, private capital, hard money, bank money, whatever. I don't want to risk that investment, and now they can't trust me to finish out the remaining 8 acres I have, if I have 10. Because remember, I only developed 2 of them. So how you handle this first phase is very important because everybody's watching and everybody's paying attention. You can't hide. There's no hiding from it. And so the last thing I wrote down was this. You want to make sure that you find a good property management company. If you've never done property management yourself and you have no experience in it, and you're going to start like a mobile home development community, you probably want a third-party property management company or you want to have experience with a property management. The reason why is because you have to abide by fair housing. And so fair housing says that you cannot discriminate against race, sex, familial status, handicap. It's all type of, statuses for fair housing, right? And so if you say one thing to one person that calls and inquire about the property for rent, you have to say that exact same thing every single time. So if one person calls and says, hey, I want to see the mobile home park. I got a trailer. I want to move back there. And you say, okay, I can see you on Thursday. How much is the lot rent? $200. Okay, perfect. I see you Thursday. Boom, you get another phone call. Ring, ring, ring. I'm interested in seeing a mobile home park. Okay, I can see you on Monday. How much is the lot rent? $150. Right there, they have what's called testers. Fair housing have testers, and you can get a $250,000 fine just by saying the wrong thing and someone feels like you're discriminating against them. So the rule of thumb is if you have anything over 4 units, you have to abide by fair housing law. And what you say to one, you say to all. So you make sure when you whisper in that one person ear, it is said loud and clear to the next person, the next person, the next person, the exact same thing, because you do not want to get caught by fair housing discriminating. You want to make sure, and that's why I said a property manager is important in this instance, because you will be held to the full extent of the law. You will be held to the full extent of the law. So let's recap real quick, right? So you're going to do your homework, find a location. You're going to call planning and zoning, see if they're going to allow you to have a mobile home park there. Then you're going to go through permits. That means that you got to get your park permits and approval, which again, you get that from planning and zoning. The building permit office is inside the same building usually. You get all your permits that says, yes, you can have a mobile home park here. You may have to apply for a mobile home park license in the area. So they're going to tell you to fill out this application to create your new mobile home park. And then from there, once you do all of that, then you're going to go and draw it and lay it out. Make sure that, you write your vision, you make it clear, right? So if you want to have 20 lots, 30 lots, 100 lots, sit down, draw it on a piece of notebook paper, bring it over to a civil engineer. Make sure you have all of your utility costs set up, so your water, your sewer, electricity, internet, all of that stuff. You're going to work on a budget with your civil engineer. Make sure you're remaining within the lines that you have. You're going to find funding, whether it's going to be from a friend, private capital, OPM, other people money, however you may want to figure out your funding situation. If you're going to go to the bank, if you're going to use your 401k, you just got to figure out the funding piece yourself. If you got 4 friends with $25,000, that may work. You may need 10 friends and maybe they got, $10,000 each, like however you want to break it down. Just be careful. This is a side note. And you can just go look this up on your own. But if you are raising capital like that, you do have to, you are regulated by what's called the SEC, the Securities Exchange Commission, and they monitor how you handle investment opportunities. And if an investor make a complaint against you and you don't have the proper paperwork that the SEC requires you to raise funds, you can end up with a fine and or in jail. So you want to make sure that you do that right. Okay, so once we get the budget and funding and everything together, you're going to build up the site, meaning that your civil engineer is going to work with all of the hard cost contractors that's going to come in and do your road work. They're going to come in and do the curbs, the gutters, the culverts, all of the development things that needs to be done. They're going to make sure that the lot is ready, all the utilities is set up, everything is ran to the property, and all you have to do is either move a trailer on the property and or a tenant move their trailer on the property. So you'll decide if you park on, tenant on, and or both. You're going to start your marketing process, meaning you're going to look for a property management company that can manage your property for you. They can market it to future residents. They're familiar with the fair housing law. They understand the rules and the regs and everything that's associated with that, and they can keep you protected. And then you're going to look for a contractor and or a coach, someone that you can do this with and have them walk alongside you to look out for your blind spots. Because the last thing I want you guys to do is to watch how to develop a mobile home park and then you go get a haircut because you skipped a step or you didn't see something coming, right? These are just some basic points. There's some other things that you probably can factor in. Just for time's sake, though, I just wanted to give you guys a few nuggets on how to develop a mobile home park or you can use this for a smaller community. You can lay it out all across the board. So again, if you are like me and you're tenacious and you're like, man, I just want to develop, I love it, I would say go ahead, start drawing, start looking for a civil engineer, and just start doing it. Just start doing it. I didn't have all of my steps figured out. I just knew that I needed protection in certain areas. So I didn't build my first house without a builder. That means that I worked alongside a builder and I was able to get through the first house. I didn't do my first community on my own. I partnered with a developer and I watched this developer put her grandchildren's name on street signs. I didn't even know that was a thing. So again, you want to make sure that when you get into development, it can be very expensive to get started, and it may be easier to get started with a fix and flip or something along those lines. But if you're just wanting to get started and you're just wanting to get into it, you can, but find somebody to walk with you, because the moment you lose, I don't know about you, but I don't like to lose. So $5,000, $10,000, $1, it all feel the same to me. It all feel the same to me. So no matter how many videos you watch on YouTube, YouTube is only going to answer what you put in the search engine. And you only know what to put in the search engine based according to your ability of understanding of what you've learned so far. So you may not know how to ask the right questions on YouTube to get the answers that you really need. So you're only going to get what you ask. And so that's why I say it's important to have a real estate coach, a mentor, someone that can look out for you and cover your blind spots and help you walk this out. I hope that this was good. If this was good, go ahead and click the like button, subscribe to the podcast, share this podcast with 3 people. That's all I ask. If you like this episode and you like, wow, this was a great episode on developing a mobile home park community, and I want my friends to hear the same thing that I heard, share this with 3 people and ask them to subscribe as well. I am your host, Terrica Lynn Smith. This is the Property Challenge, and I'll see you guys next week on another episode of the Property Challenge podcast. Let's go.